Hi everybody and welcome to another video. My name is Richard Seidlitz, aka Telum01, and I'm the owner of Redpants.lol. Today I'm going to show you one of the most important basic tasks that's required to do most of the work on your Aston Martin, and that's getting it up on jack stands. There's a lot of concern about this because there are a couple of spots underneath the car that tend to bend if you use them. Specifically, there are some rails along the bottom that look like they should be structurally sound to lift the car, but they will dent if you use them. There are some very specific mounting points that you would use for a lift. But since most of us don't have lifts in our garages at our homes, we have to use jacks and jack stands. So this is really important because most of the jobs you're going to do on your car, especially for maintenance, are done from underneath the car. Everything from changing out the air filters for the engine to the engine oil, the transmission fluid. Simple things like brakes have to have the car lifted in order to get to them. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to show you how to do that in your own garage with some basic tools that most of us have if we're DIY owners. So the first thing you want to do is actually to break the lug nuts loose on each of the wheels. And the reason for that is because if these lug nuts are tight when you lift it up, especially on the front, you're not going to be able to get the wheel off. Basically, as you apply force to it, the wheel will spin as you're trying to break that nut loose, and it's not going to come off. So the best way to do this is if you just undo each lug nut enough to where it's no longer tight. Basically one spin of the nut on each one and you're good. Once you've done that, we can actually begin to lift the car. So as you can see on my car, I use race ramps. They're pretty inexpensive, really handy. I have to use these because I have a standard floor jack and it's not low enough to the ground to get under my car because my car is lowered. So I have to use these race ramps to get it up enough to where I can get the jack underneath. If you have a low enough ramp, that may not be necessary for you to use the ramps, but for some of us it is. You'll also notice that on the end of my jack, I have a rubber, well, it's a clump now. It used to be just a bit of a nice square pad. That's just a rubber drawer liner. What that does is just protects the metal so that you don't have any metal on metal contact. It also adds a frictive surface to keep the jack from sliding. So it's just a good idea to have it. Mine's in pretty rough shape, but I've also been using it a lot for several years, so it's done pretty well, especially since it was maybe $1's worth of drawer liner. So I'll go ahead and do this side so you can see what it looks like. Once the car is up, I'll show you the underneath so that you can actually see where everything goes. So first thing is we want to put the jack about the middle. And the reason for that is because you can do both sides at once. And with mine, of course, I have to be pretty careful because it is so low that the back end of the back half of this side sill is probably too low for the jack, and I don't want to damage my side sill. So underneath this, there's actually a rail that runs along. My hand is on it right now to give you an idea, and again, I'll show you this once I'm done with this. I want to put this pad on that to use that as my lifting surface. When you're doing this, you want to be careful not to have the pad too far out, because if it is too far out, the weight of the car is going to basically push the jack out. It's going to roll out, and the end of the jack, the actual lifting pad, is going to take out a chunk of the side of your car. So make sure it's far enough in to where the weight is actually pressing down on it and not pushing it out. So I'll go ahead and get started. And the best way to do this is just get underneath so you can actually feel where the rail is. And of course, be careful not to squish your fingers while you're doing this. All right. So now it's just a matter of lifting the car. With this job, you want to be careful not to do it too suddenly because you are lifting it up. Something to keep in mind is if you're lifting up the front only, it's a really good idea to put wheel chocks behind the back wheels. Something to remember on these cars is that the brake, the e-brake, is this caliper right here. So if you aren't using the rear wheels on the ground, the front wheels aren't going to do anything to keep the car in place. They're going to spin freely, the car will roll. So that's something to be very careful about, is where you're actually, you know, what part of the car you're using to stay on the ground. So let's go ahead and continue this. And again, you don't want to do anything too sudden because you don't want the car slipping. Plus, you want to be able to make sure that, and you can see I can pull on the jack, it's not coming out at all. You just want to make sure that everything is stable. If you're using race ramps, you're going to have to move them out of the way to get the jack underneath. And as you can see, that's moving a little bit. So underneath both sides, and I'll show you this now. You can see where the sill, the plastic, has a cutout right here. And this is where you want to put your jack stand. So there's a rubber, plastic right here, the plastic around it, this spot in the middle, that's the spot you want to use. There is the same thing on the back, right here. And since this is one of those things where safety is paramount, again, take your time, make sure everything is lined up how you want to. Pretty much all jack stands are going to have a safety mechanism built into it. So when we're doing this, another thing to do is you want to have the jacks on the front and back raised to the same level. So on mine, I've got the front almost there. There we go. Put that in. Make sure it's where you want it. And then slowly, slowly let the car down. And check as you go to make sure that everything comes down safely. Okay, so now we can see that the car is on these jack stands. You can see that it's only on the metal. And same with on this side. It is up on there. And then you do the other side. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me, rich@redpants.lol, or you can go to my website, redpants.lol, and go to the contact page. Both ways to contact me go to the same email address, so it's up to you which one you use. So if you have any questions, please feel free to message me. Thanks.